Tabara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Jaya Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hariba 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 Nitai Gaura Hariba
Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Padamam Sabhidivrajakacharya Stotara Satta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Navadip Dhama Ki Kalachanji Dhama Ki Gangamai Ki Jamunamai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Brihat Mridanga Ki Prashadam Distribution Ki Shama Beda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Very wonderful to be with you all here today. It's a very auspicious day today. We're celebrating the disappearance of Sri Gadadhar Pandit and the disappearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the disappearance of Mother Kirtida. So, I had no plans to be sitting here on the Vyasa-san speaking to you all today, but Krishna had other plans, and so I prayed to you all and to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Mother Kirtida, for your blessings, their blessings and mercy. That we'll be able to speak something nicely today, hear about them together, and for your pleasure and the pleasure of the deities and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Kalachanji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. And I'll chant the prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Sapraeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. So with today being the disappearance day of so many wonderful devotees, we're going to be first hearing about Sri Gadadhar Pandit, and after that we'll hear about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this evening there will be a program from Mother Kirtira, so I think we'll let most of that happen then. But I will just say, a little bit of my personal experience with Mother Kirtira in my life. When I first met her, I was going to Vrindavan Gurukul. This would have been in 1993. And Mother Kirti had actually gone to India because she had cancer. And they basically, she thought she was leaving her body. So she went to Vrindavan to leave her body. And while she was there, she really miraculously healed completely. She had like almost no stomach because cancer had eaten her stomach away. And while she was there, she was able to heal, and she got to the point where she was doing Vrindavan Parikram every day. And when I was in the Gurukul, basically what you saw her doing all day long was circumambulating Krishna Balaram Mandir, chanting japa, just all day long. So from somebody that was leaving their body to doing that. And then she's, of course, a disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And then after that, she healed, and she was able to come back. And when Tamal Krishna Maharaj had his health difficulties, she was able to care for him when he had cancer and he was going through that. And then later on in her life, cancer came back, and she was going to go back to Vrindavan, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked her to stay here in Dallas, actually, to be with the devotees. And so she had her final pastimes here in Dallas, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was here with her at that time. He stayed in Dallas for quite some time, and every day the devotees would gather. She was staying, and there's an empty lot now next to Rasraj Prabhu's house. The house was there, and she was living there, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj would go visit her every day. All the devotees would come together and do kirtan, and it transformed the community in such a profound way. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked that every year we celebrate her disappearance day like this as a community here in Dallas. So that will happen this evening. She's a wonderful devotee. I encourage you to attend the program for that if you can. Pray to her for her mercy and guidance, so that we may be able to serve a fraction of what she did in her life. And so first, I'll read a little bit about Sri Gadadhar Pandit. So as we all know, Sri Gadadhar Pandit is one of the Panchatattva, and he's described as the effulgence of Srimati Radharani. And Sri Gaurahari had so much affection for Sri Gadadhar Pandit that he couldn't be without him for a moment. He appeared a year after Lord Chaitanya. Gadai and Nimai were inseparable as childhood playmates. Peaceful, renounced, serious, self-composed, fond of solitude, Gadadhar proved quite a contrast to his bosom friend, Gaurarai, who was fickle, unsteady, and whimsical. In Gangadas Pandit's school, Nimai Pandit regularly teased Gadadhar by challenging him with illogical questions. Sri Kavikarnapur states that in Vrajalila, Gadadhar Pandit is the daughter of King Rishabhanu, Srimati Radharani. Gadadhar Pandit serves as Lord Gaura's chief assistant during his Navadvip Leela. Sri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan appear as Gaur Gadadhar to perform pastimes in Navadvip in the forest groves besides the Ganges. No one can describe the characteristics and ecstatic love of Gadadhar Pandit. Therefore, another name for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gadadhar Prananatha, the life and soul of Gadadhar Pandit. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. One day, while wandering along the banks of the Ganges, Gaur Sundar entered a forest grove and sat in a meditative mood. Soon he became enraptured, remembering his Vrindavan pastimes. To enhance the Lord's mood, Mukunda Datta began singing sweet songs in Purva Raga. Sri Gadadhar made a garland of fragrant forest flowers and lovingly placed it around the Lord's beautiful neck. As Sri Radha used to dress Damodar in Vrindavan, similarly, Gadadhar would adorn the radiant form of Lord Gauranga. He would also decorate Lord Chaitanya's bed and bedroom with sweet-smelling flowers. Every day, he would make sandalwood paste to rub on Sri Chaitanya's transcendental body. Gaur Gadadhar sat on the root of a tree, serving as a raised dais. Sri Nityananda Prabhu sat on Lord Chaitanya's right. Srivas Pandit decorated them with flowers. Sri Advaita Acharya offered artik. Narahari waved a chamra. Shuklambar offered chandan, and Murari Gupta sang the Lord's glories. Vijay, Mukunda, Purushottama, Madhava, and Vasudev Ghosh sang a variety of songs in different ragas. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his Nadia Leela. Gadadhar Pandit also took the renounced order of life and went to Jagannath Puri to be with Lord Chaitanya. Accepting Kshetra Sannyas, a renunciate who never leaves the Dham, he served the deity of Tota Gopinath with full love and devotion. Regularly, Sri Krishna Chaitanya came to relish Sri Gadadhar's Rasika reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya concluded his manifest pastimes by entering the deity of Tota Gopinath, which was worshipped by Gadadhar Pandit. Although Gadadhar Pandit was barely 48 when the Lord departed, he quickly became old because of the intense anguish he felt in separation from his beloved Lord Gaurasundar. He couldn't stretch his arms to offer a garland to his deity. Understanding his servant's difficulty, Sri Tota Gopinath sat down to facilitate Gadadhar's loving service. To this day, Sri Tota Gopinath is the only sitting deity of Krishna. According to some authorities, a short time after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, Sri Gadadhar Pandit joined his eternal pastimes by entering his beloved deity of Tota Gopinath. His danta, his tooth samadhi, stands near the Vamsi Gopal temple in Vrindavan. I was so touched by so many things, and I had forgotten that Lord Chaitanya had concluded his manifest pastimes by entering the deity of Tota Gopinath, and that deity was the deity that was worshipped by Sri Gadadhar Pandit. And I just found that to be such a wonderful meditation to see the relationship, as we know, Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani, or manifestation of Srimati Radharani. And then that soon after the Lord left his body, even at a young age, that Gadadhar Pandit just is, because of such intense separation, he couldn't even stand to garland the Lord and worship the Lord, so the Lord sat down to accept his service. Just praying to Sri Gadadhar Pandit on his disappearance day. Be merciful upon us, so we may serve Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji nicely and serve the devotees together, begging for his mercy. Before I move on to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, would anybody, any pastimes or anything you all would like to share? Any thoughts or realizations about Sri Gadadhar Pandit? Please.
I just think it's pretty amazing, and it's kind of a segue between them, I guess, is that it's just amazing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the deities that he worshipped with all of his heart were not Gaur Nitai as we worship them, but Gaur Gadadhar, and then he left his body on the same day that Gadadhar Pandit left. So this shows like the connection that, and we see this all the time, synchronicities and connections in Krishna consciousness. It's so transcendental and just manifests in such undeniable ways.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Gadai Nimai. Yeah. Somehow or another, Gadai Nimai has been coming up more and more in my life in this recent year, actually. It wasn't something because, I grew up so much with Gaur Nitai, and there's such a sweetness to that also, thinking of, Radha and Krishna in that form as well. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? I'm sorry? Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Anything else on Sri Gadadhar Pandit before we go to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur? So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so about the year 15 AD, the incarnation of God, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, began the Hare Krishna movement in Navadvip in West Bengal. This movement, based on the philosophy of ancient texts of devotion to Krishna, like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, spread all over India within a short time. The movement popularized Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, as the most effective means of God realization for the present age of Kali, a time of rampant faithlessness and materialism. After 1750 AD, the influence of the Hare Krishna movement seemed to wane. Many sects of Sahajas, cheap pseudo-devotees, sprouted up, each claiming to be the true purveyors of Vaishnav Dharma, the religion of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Because of their bad character, the Sahajas brought disrepute upon the pure movement of love of God begun by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the 1800s, an eternally perfect devotee of Krishna descended from the spiritual world to the material world to revive the Hare Krishna movement and to initiate its expansion beyond the borders of India. Anybody guess who that was? So in the 1800s. Yes. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was named Kedarnath Datta by his father, some say by his godfather, was born in opulent circumstances on the 2nd of September 1838. On a Sunday in the district of Nadia, he was the 7th son of Raj Krishnananda Datta, a great devotee of Lord Nityananda. He was also known as the great-grandson of Madan Mohan and the 3rd son of his godfather, Ananda Chandra. He would be known as Daitya Kulera Prahlada, Prahlad in the family of demons. This was because Vaishnavism was not very much respected in his family. On his mother's side, there was no respect for Vaishnavism at all. Just found that to be so amazing that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, such a, the father of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who was the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, and such a, powerful personality, in a sense, reestablishing Krishna consciousness after it had become so polluted, and that he was born into a family that was not necessarily so, I would just think he would be born into the family of most advanced, exalted, pure Vaishnavas, and I just found that to be so remarkable. His childhood was spent at the mansion of his maternal grandfather, but then you can see that, born into a family of aristocratic opulence, like we hear so much of what happens for devotees. Of his maternal grandfather, Mashtupi Mahashai. His environment at this time was very opulent. He got his elementary education at the primary school started by his grandmother. Later, he attended an English school in Krishnanagar, started by the king of Nadia. He left that school when his older brother died unexpectedly of cholera. When he was 11 years old, his father passed away. Subsequently, the grant of land that had been conferred upon his grandmother changed owners. At this time, the family fell into a condition of poverty. Their great wealth proved to be illusory. Still, the young Kedarnath Datta passed over these difficulties with great endurance. His mother arranged the marriage for him when he was just 12 in 1850 to the then 5-year-old daughter of Madhusudan Mitra Mahashai, a resident of Ranagata. So I think this deserves a little, context and explanation in current times. So when we say marriage, that didn't mean that they were starting the life of a husband and wife in that sense, but that there was a commitment and that they would, at some time later on in life, start that more traditional, husband and wife relationship that we're used to in our times. Around this time, Kashi Prasad Ghosh Mahashai Thakur, Kedarnath Datta's uncle, who had mastered under the British education, came to Ulagram after the death of his maternal grandfather. He schooled young Kedarnath Datta at his home in Calcutta. This was at first resisted by Kedarnath Datta's mother, but by the time he was older, he was allowed to go. The house was situated in the Hedio district of central Calcutta. Kashi Prasad was the central figure of the literacy circle of his time. Being the editor of the Hindu Intelligencer, many writers came to him to learn the art of writing in correct English. At this time, and recognizing Kedarnath Datta's natural ability, he assisted Kashi Prasad by judging manuscripts submitted to the newspaper. Sri Kedarnath Datta studied Kashi Prasad's books and also frequented the public library. He attended Calcutta's Hindu Charitable Institution High School and became an expert English reader, speaker, and writer. He became ill from the salty water of Calcutta. He returned to Ulagram and was treated by a Muslim soothsayer, Tantric, who predicted that the village of Biranagara would soon become pestilence-ridden and deserted. The Muslim also predicted Kedarnath Datta would become recognized as a great devotee of Lord Krishna. At the age of 18, Kedarnath Datta entered a college in Calcutta. He started writing extensively in both English and Bengali. These essays were published in local journals. He also lectured in both languages. He further studied English literature at this time extensively and taught speech-making to a person who later became a well-known orator in the British Parliament. Between the years 1857 and 1858, he composed a 2-part English epic entitled The Poriad, which he planned to complete in 12 books. These two books describe the life of Porus, who met Alexander the Great. Srimand Vijendranath Thakur, the eldest son of Maharshi Devendranath Thakur, was Sri Kedarnath Datta's best friend. During these scholastic years, he assisted Kedarnath Datta in his studies of Western religious literatures. Affectionately, Kedarnath Datta used to call Devendranath Thakur Bharo Dada, or Big Brother. He was very taken by Christian theology and regarding it more interesting and less offensive than Hindu monism, Advaita, Vedanta, or Sankaracharya. He would spend many hours comparing the writings of Channing, Theodore Parker, Emerson, and Newman. At the British Indian Society, he gave a lecture on the evolution of matter through the material mode of goodness. At the end of 1858, Kedarnath Datta returned to Varinagara and found the Muzi's prediction about that place to have come true. The place was ruined and deserted. Sri Kedarnath Datta brought his mother and paternal grandmother with him from there to Calcutta. Soon after, he went to Orissa to visit his paternal grandfather, Rajvallabh Datta, who used to be a big man in Calcutta, who was now living as an ascetic in the Orissan countryside. His days were coming to a close. He could predict the future, so he knew it himself very well. He wanted Kedarnath Datta to be with him when he departed this world, which he did in 1859. When Kedarnath Datta was 21 years of age, after receiving his grandfather's last instructions, he traveled to all the monasteries and temples in the state of Orissa. As a young householder, Srila Bhaktivinoda began to consider the question of the means of his livelihood. He was not interested in business, as he'd seen how the apparent necessary dishonesty of the trade world due to competition for sales had morally weakened the merchant class, their work ethics becoming removed from the principle of mutually helping others, by which they would automatically be protected from failure to succeed, as well as being cooperatively assisted by the natural laws of compensation. He decided instead to become a school teacher. He established a school for English education in the village of Kendrapar near Chutigram in Orissa, thus becoming a pioneer in English teaching in that state. He also could see the oppressive power wielded by the landowners of Chutigram. After some time, he went to Puri and passed the teacher's examination. He got a teacher's post in Kutak school and later became headmaster of a school in Bhadraka and then Madinapur. His dedicated work was noted by the school board authorities. In Bhadraka, his first son, Ananda Prasad Achutananda, was born. In 1860, he published a book that year in English that described all the ashrams and temples in the state. This book received favorable mention in the work called Orissa by British historian Sir William Hunter. Hunter praised Kedarnath Datta's moral and religious character, as everyone did. The Thakur made an onslaught against those who belonged to the Apasampradayas, who were polluting Gaudiya Vaishnavism by basically 13 deviant philosophies. So I'm not going to go through all these philosophies, but these deviant groups, mostly because of their boldness, had been seen by the public as the Gaudiya Sampradaya, though actually none were following the pure Vaishnava regulative principles strictly as laid down by the followers of Sri Chaitanya, namely the Goswamis. Being a follower of the Goswamis or not is interdependent on qualifying one to be a Gaudiya Vaishnava. For more details on Apasampradayas, one should read the very nice articles running as a sequel in the Bhakti Guided magazine. So there's a 1991 edition by His Holiness Suhotra Swami that explains these sampradayas if you're interested and would like more information. Sri Kedarnath Datta's first wife died, so in the town of Jakorpur, he remarried Bhagyavati De. In the year 1861, Sri Kedarnath Datta accepted the post of deputy magistrate in the government of Bengal. Then he became collectorate officer after seeing the corruption of the government workers. He established an organization called the Bratra Samaj. He wrote in English in 1863 called Our Once. At this time, he also constructed a home in Ranagata. Later in 1863, he stayed at Burdwan, where he composed 2 novel poems in Bengali. Vigyagram, Deserted Village, and Sannyasi. Volume 39 of the 1863 Calcutta Review praised these poems, saying, "We hope the author will continue to give his countrymen the benefit of his elegant and unassuming pen, which is quite free from those objectionable licenses of thought and expression which abound in many dramas recently published. The want of the day is the creation of a literature for Hindu ladies, and we trust that many more educated natives will have the good sense of to devote their time and abilities to the attainment of this most desirable aim." The rhyme and style of these 2 poems were original. They gave birth to a new way of writing poetry in the Bengali language. So it goes on to explain Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's post of deputy magistrate and how he continued. And then he became quite fluent in Persian and Urdu, spoke many different languages, went on to achieve many different things throughout his life. So, and then also in 1866, Kedarnath Datta translated the Balad Registry Manual into Urdu, which was circulated by the government throughout the United Provinces of Agra and Oudh. This manual was used by the registration departments of those areas. Sri Kedarnath Datta was transferred to Purnia from Chapara, where he took charge of the government and judicial departments. He was then transferred to Dinajapur, West Bengal, in 1868, becoming the deputy magistrate. At this time, he received copies of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita from Calcutta. He read Chaitanya Charitamrita repeatedly. His faith in Krishna consciousness developed until he was absorbed in the pure Bhakti Shastras day and night. He was incessantly submitting heartfelt prayers for the Lord's mercy. He came to understand the supreme majesty and power of the one and only absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He published a song about Lord Chaitanya entitled Sachidananda Premalankara in 1869 while serving as deputy magistrate under the government of Bengal. He delivered a speech in the form of a treatise he had written on the Srimad Bhagavatam to a big congregation of many prominent men of letters from the many parts of India and England. He was transferred to Champarna, during which time his second son Radhika Prasad was born. In Champarna, people used to worship a ghost in a banyan tree, which had the power to influence the mind of the local judge to decide in the favor of the worshipper. Sri Kedarnath Datta engaged the father of Pandit Ramabai, a famous girl scholar, to read Srimad Bhagavatam under the tree continuously by day and night. After 1 month, the tree crashed to the ground, and naturally many people found faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam. From Champarna he went to Puri, which gladdened his heart to no end. Near the capital of Orissa in the town of Kamanala, there lived a yogi named Kishena, who would lean into a fire while sitting close by, then return to an erect sitting posture. In this way he'd rock back and forth over the flames. He could also produce fire from his head. He had 2 companions going by the names of Brahma and Shiva. He claimed to be Mahavishnu. The small kings of Orissa came under his sway and were providing funds for the construction of a temple for the Triguna avatars. So a temple for this yogi and for his 2 associates. They also sent him women with whom he engaged in Rasa Lila. Vishakhsena declared he'd drive off the British from ruling Orissa and himself would become king. He published such statements which were circulated all around Orissa. The British thought him a revolutionary for speaking out against the British Raj, so the district governor of the national government of Bengal drew up arrest orders, but nobody in Orissa dared to act upon these orders, as they all feared Vishakhsena. Mr. Ravenshaw, district commissioner for Orissa, requested Sri Kedarnath Datta to bring Vishakhsena to justice. Sri Kedarnath Datta went personally to Vishakhsena. Vishakhsena showed some powers that would normally scare off an ordinary man and informed Kedarnath Datta that he knew well who he was and his mission, but that since he, Vishakhsena, was the Lord, he'd better not interfere with him. That was enough for Sri Kedarnath Datta, who replied by acknowledging Vishakhsena's accomplishments in yoga and tantra and requested him to come to Puri where he could have the darshan of Jagannath. Vishakhsena haughtily said, "Why should I come see Jagannath? He's only a hunk of wood. I am the Supreme Person." Sri Kedarnath Datta became instantly furious and arrested the rogue, brought him to Puri and threw him in jail, where he was guarded by 36 Muslim constables and 72 policemen from Cuttack day and night. The accomplices to the divine trilogy, Brahma and Shiva, avoided arrest by claiming they'd been forced by Vishakhsena to do as they'd done, but they were later on prosecuted. The fearless Kedarnath Datta tried Vishakhsena in Puri. The trial lasted 18 days, during which time thousands of people whom he had control over, gathered outside the courtroom demanding Bishaksena's release. On day 6 of the trial, Keranadatta's second daughter, Kadambini, aged 7, became seriously ill and nearly died. But within a day, she had recovered. Sri Keranadatta knew it was the power of the tantric yogi at work. He remarked, "Yes, let us all die, but this rascal must be punished." The very next day, in court, the yogi announced he'd shown his power and would show much more. He suggested that Keranadatta should release him at once or face worse miseries. On the last day of the trial, Keranadatta himself became ill from high fever and suffered exactly as his daughter had done for one whole day. But the determined Keranadatta pronounced the man guilty and sentenced him to 18 months for political conspiracy. When Bishaksena was being readied for jailing, one Dr. Walter, the district medical officer, cut off all the yogi's hair. The yogi drew power from his long hair. He hadn't eaten or drunk during the whole trial, so he fell to the floor like a dead man and had to be taken by stretcher to jail. After 3 months, he was moved to the central jail, where he took poison and died there. In Puri, Sri Keranadatta studied Srimad Bhagavatam with a commentary of Sridhar Swami. He also copied out, in longhand, the Satsandarbhas of Jiva Goswami and made a special study of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Between the years 1874 and 1893, Bhaktivinoda Thakur spent much time in seclusion, chanting the holy name, though he still executed his worldly duties perseveringly. He wrote several books in Sanskrit, such as Sri Krishna Samhita, Tattva Sutram, and Tattva Viveka, which we have cited in the early sections of this book. While in Puri, he established the Vaishnava discussion society known as the Bhagavat Samsat in the Jagannath Vallabh Gardens, where Sri Ramananda Roy did bhajans. All the prominent Vaishnavas joined this group except for Raghunath Das Babaji, known as Siddhapurusha. He thought that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur was unauthorized, as he did not wear kantimala or tilak. Moreover, he advised other Vaishnavas to avoid Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's association. But soon thereafter, Raghunath Das Babaji contracted a deathly illness from his offense. In a dream, Lord Jagannath appeared to him and told him to pray for the mercy of Bhakti Vinod Thakur if he at all wanted release from the illness and death. He did so. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave him special medicines and cured him, and also blessed Raghunath Das Babaji with a true awareness of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's position. Others had a natural affection, like Sri Swarup Das Babaji, who did bhajan at Satsana near the ocean in Puri. He showed much affection for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and gave him many profound instructions and insights from his own realizations. Okay, this would go on for a very long time if I kept reading, so I'll skip forward a little bit. So it says later on, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur became manager of Jagannath Puri temple. He used his government powers to establish regularity in the worship of the deity. In the Jagannath Puri temple courtyard, he established a Bhakti Mandap, where daily discourses of Srimad Bhagavatam were held. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would spend long hours discussing Krishna and chanting the holy name, especially at Tota Gopinath Mandir, the tomb of Haridas Thakur, the Siddha Bakul, and the Gambhira. He made notes on the Vedanta Sutra, which were used by Sri Shamala Goswami in the edition of the Govinda Bhasya by Baladev Vijayabhushan that he published. Near the Jagannath Vallabh Gardens, in a large house adjacent the Narayan Chatmat, on the 5th day of the dark fortnight of Magh in the year 1874, the 4th son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur took birth. Does anybody know who the 4th son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur is? Yeah. Vimala Prasad. later known as Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, who is, of course, the spiritual master of our Srila Prabhupada. As a householder, Bhakti Vinod, Kedarnath had 2 wives and no less than 10 children, of which the great Vaishnav scholar Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was one. Vimala Prasad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was born in Sri Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri. Answering the prayer of Bhakti Vinod for the Lord to send a ray of Vishnu to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world, he was given the name Bimala Prasad. Excuse me. So it goes on to describe Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's accomplishments and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's life. And something that I found very interesting is that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur was so influential in the time of the British Raj that a train would come to his house. Not like there was like an actual train station. The train would come to his house to take him to work every day. That was the way he traveled to work during the time of the British Raj, because of his influence, not just in the Vaishnav world, but also in the secular world as well. His schedule is also shown here, which I always find to be so amazing. Okay, here we go. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's daily schedule. So from 7:30 to 8 p.m., he would take rest for 30 minutes. I'm sorry, from 7:30 to 8, during that time, in those 30 minutes, he would take rest for 2 hours. And at 10 p.m., he would rise, he would light an oil lamp, and he would begin his writing. And then at 4 a.m., he would take rest for 30 minutes, from 4 to 4:30, when he would rise, wash his hands and face, and he would chant his japa until 7 a.m. And at 7 a.m. he would write letters, and then at 7:30 he would read for 1 hour. At 8:30 he would receive guests or continue to read. And from 9:30 to 9:45 he would take rest for 15 minutes. At 9:45 he would take his morning bath. He would have breakfast of half a quart of milk, a couple of chapatis, and some fruit. And this would take 10 minutes, from 9:45 to 9:55. At 9:55 he would go to the court in the carriage, He would wear coat and pants to court with double-sized Tulsi neck beads and Vaishnav tilak. He was very strong in his decisions. He would decide immediately. He did not allow any humbug in his court. No upstart could stand before him. He would shave his head monthly. He never allowed harmonium in his Sankirtan, considering it a distraction from the sound of Sri Nam Prabhu. He never had any debts. At 10 a.m., court would begin, and at 1 p.m., court would finish. So he would handle all of his duties for the court in 3 hours. He'd come home and bathe and refresh, and then at 2 p.m., return to the office. And then at 5 p.m., I apologize. So from 10 to 1, he was at court. At 1, he would go home, and then at 2, he would return to the office. So from 2 to 5, he was at the office. So 6 hours, right? At 5 p.m., he would translate works from Sanskrit to Bengali, and he would take his evening bath and meal of rice, a couple of chapatis, and his, again, half quart of milk. So from 5 p.m. to 7:30, that's when he would do his translation work. So his total rest time was 2 hours from 8 to 10 p.m. and then another 30 minutes from 4 to 4:30, so that's 2.5 hours. And then from 9:30 to 9:45, he would take another 15 minutes. So now we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes. And that was it. no other rest is mentioned. Hare Krishna. He always consulted a pocket watch and was always accountable, keeping time very punctually. That's something I can learn from. I struggle to keep time. He was always charitable to brahmanas and equally befriended other castes. He never showed pride, and his amiable disposition was a characteristic feature of his life. He never accepted gifts from anyone. He even declined all honors and titles offered by the government to him on the grounds that they might stand against his holy mission of life. He was very strict in moral principles and avoided the luxurious life. He would not even chew betel. He disliked theaters. And so he spoke Bengali, Sanskrit, English, Latin, Urdu, Persian, and Oriya. He started writing books at age 12 and continued turning out a profuse number of volumes up until his departure from this world. As with all of the wonderful personalities we have touched on, there are so many things that can be said to glorify such incredible devotees. But just to keep this book in perspective, we're just trying to give a taste. So for further details on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rupa Vilas Prabhu, a disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, has compiled a book on the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur entitled The Seventh Goswami. So we speak very much about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan that came after Lord Chaitanya to establish Krishna consciousness so firmly, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is sometimes referred to as the 7th Goswami in that regard. Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai. So any questions, any comments, anything you all would like to share on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur?
I also thank you so much, Prabhu. A nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm glad we're paying so much attention to this exalted soul. I also wanted to point out how little he ate.
Yes.
It usually goes hand in hand, like very little sleep, very little eating. It just says he took breakfast 9:45, half quart of milk, couple of chapatis, some fruit. And then at, in the evening, meal of rice, couple chapatis, half quart of milk.
Yeah.
Can you live off that?
Yeah, it doesn't even say he'd eat at 1 o'clock for lunch.
Yeah.
The court finished and he would come home and take a bath and refresh.
No vegetables.
Huh? I don't need vegetables. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if it was a class or, Srila Prabhupada was talking about it. And he was talking about how much sleep that we need in general, like 5 to 6 hours. And Srila Prabhupada was saying something to the effect that if you need more sleep than that, then that's a sign that you're overeating. That you're eating more than you need, so your body needs more rest than that. Of course, you have to eat enough to maintain your body properly. I'm not suggesting that this is the diet for all of us, but I appreciated that point. It reminded me what Srila Prabhupada said. Yes?
You touched on it, how amazing it is, the pre-manifested Krishna consciousness. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I mean, he's a Nitya Siddha. Like he has like his spiritual form in the spiritual world and in Radha and Krishna's pastimes is known to us and is confirmed. He's a Manjari. Which Manjari? Kamala Manjari. He's a Manjari. He's a servant of Rati Manjari or one of Rupa Manjari. But in his earthly pastimes, it's just Krishna's mercy, to show us. Because this was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mission and prediction, that Krishna consciousness will be spread to the west, and people from the west will come to Mayapur, and they'll all gather and they'll be chanting Krishna's names. But people in the west are so degraded. I mean, like illicit sex and meat eating is like, I mean, if you're not doing those things, you're weird. And so it's amazing. Like that was his mission, was to inspire the West, and in order to show us that it's possible, even though he's a Nityasiddha, even though he's eternally liberated, in order to show us that it's possible, Krishna arranged that in his lifetime he's born into a non-devotee family that does eat and serve him meat. He on a material platform, if you're looking at it, yeah, he ate meat growing up. He wasn't a devotee. And then his first real affection for any particular religion was actually Christianity. It was actually Christianity, because he thought that the brotherhood expressed in Christian religion was so beautiful, in this idea of this family, this big family, because that's his goal, is that we all over the world, we have this brotherhood and sisterhood with fellow Vaishnavas. And so then finally his manifest Krishna conscious Leela came about, and then during that time he wrote countless. There's this website called bhaktivinodinstitute.org, I think, or maybe .com, but Bhaktivinod Institute. And you can see his biography, you can see all of the songs that he'd ever written, and he has so many songbooks, and these are just what we have documented. Actually, there's one of his descendants who lives in Alachua. He's an initiated devotee, and he's gone to these places, and he's done so much research. He's seen so many manuscripts of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs that are not accessible to us. They've never been put into translation, and that never been put online. Wow. And most of them are falling apart, and there's hundreds and hundreds of pages that are just his descendants, I guess, they're thinking to just throw them away, and we can no longer read them, really. Half the songs are missing. There's one book that I know of that he's discussing his pastimes as a manjari in the spiritual world, as a servant, as a maidservant of Radha and Krishna. He's discussing these pastimes with the daily eightfold daily pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and how he serves them during that time. And it stops halfway. It stops during the afternoon pastimes, because they just don't know where the rest of it is. And so we already have so many of his songs, so much access to what he's written, and still we maybe have half of it. It's just like he gave so much of himself. We see, like, he was writing. I mean, he was hardly sleeping, he was hardly eating, yeah, but look how much he was writing from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and then from 5 p.m. to 7 or 8, he would just be writing, and probably jotting notes down here and there throughout the day